Good morning. Welcome to day 9 of Julie of the Wolves, the official day 9. Yesterday I accidentally called it day 9, but it was really day 8. So, day 9, Julie of the Wolves. Yesterday, she was figuring out that maybe Jello has been kicked out for some reason, or he's kind of in some wolf disgrace. She took the rest of the caribou and she put it in, she made like an ice bunker. So she dug down into the permafrost. Okay, day 9. In bed that evening, Myax's spirit was stirred by the seeding grass and the restless birds, and she could not sleep. She got up, stored some of her smoked meat in her pack, spread the rest in the sun to pack later, and hurried out to the caribou hide. She scraped all the fat from it and stuffed it in the bladder she had saved. The fat was excellent fuel and gave light when burned. Finally, she crept to her cellar for the rest of the meat and found Jello digging through the lid of the sod. No, she screamed. He snarled and came toward her. There was nothing to do but assert her authority. She rose to her feet and tapped the top of his nose with her man's knife. With that, he stuck his tail between his legs and slunk swiftly away. While Myax stood still, surprised by the power she felt. The knife made her a predator, and a dangerous one. Clutching her food, she ran home, banked the fire, and put the last of the meat on the coals. She was about to go to bed when Kapu bounced down her heave, leaped over her house, and landed silently by her side. "Oh, wow," she said. "I'm so glad to see you. Jello scares me to death these days." She reached into her pot for a piece of cooked meat for him, and this time he ate from her fingers. Then he spanked the ground to play. Picking up a scrap from the mitten, she swung it around her head. Kapu leaped and snatched it so easily that she was startled. He was quick and powerful, an adult, not a pup. She hesitated to chase him, and he bounded up the heave and dashed away. The next morning, when she went out to soften the hide by pounding and chewing it, she saw two bright eyes peering at her from behind the antlers, about all that was left of her caribou. The eyes belonged to an Arctic fox, and she walked toward him upright to scare him away. He continued to gnaw the bones. "Things are tough, eh, little fox?" she whispered. "I cannot drive you away from the food." At the sound of her voice, however, his ears twisted, his tail drooped, and he departed like a leaf on the wind. The fox's brown fur of summer was splotched with white patches, reminding Myax again that winter was coming. For the fur of the fox changes each season to match the color of the land. He would soon be white, like the snow. Before sundown, the temperature dropped and Myax crawled into her sleeping skin early. Hardly had she snuggled down in her furs than a wolf howled to the south. "I am here," Amarok answered with a bark, and the distant wolf said something else. She did not know what. Then each pack counted off, and when the totals were in, Myax's wolves yipped among themselves as if discussing the tender news. A pack of 12 wolves to the north. So wild had their voices been that Myax crept to her door to call Kapu to come and ease her fears. She started with surprise. There by her pond was Amarok. The wind was blowing his fur, and his tribe was gathered around him, biting his chin, kissing his cheeks. With a sudden sprint, he sped into the green shadows of sunrise, and one by one his family fell in behind, according to their status in the pack. Nails ran second, then Silver, Kapu, Sister, Zit Zat Zing, and finally, far behind came Jello. Myax at last was sure of what had happened to Jello. He was low man on the totem pole, the bottom of the ladder. She recalled the day Amarok had put him down and forced him to surrender. The many times Silver had made him go back and sit with the pups, and the times that Kapu had ignored his calls to come home to the den. He was indeed a lowly wolf, a poor spirit with fears and without friends. Scrambling to her feet, she watched the pack run along the horizon, a flowing line of magnificent beasts, all cooperating for the sake of each other, all wholly content, except Jello. He ran head down, low to the ground, in the manner of the lone wolf. This is not good, she said aloud. An Arctic tern skimmed low, and she jumped to her feet, for it was flying with a determination that she had not seen in the birds all summer. Its white wings cut a flashing V against the indigo sky as it moved due south across the tundra. There was no doubt in her mind what that steady flight meant. The migration was on. Goodbye, she called sadly. Goodbye. Another tern passed overhead, then another and another. Mayax walked to the fireplace and threw on more fuel. Amarok howled in the distance, his royal voice ringing out in firm command. Somehow she felt he was calling her. But she could not go on this hunt. She must finish smoking every morsel of meat. Hurriedly, she picked up her markers and started off for more fuel. Several hours later, her tights bulging with caribou chips, she saw the wolves again. Amarok, Nails, and Silver were testing the herd, and Kapu was pouncing and bouncing. She knew what that meant. The hour of the lemmings was returning. Of this she was sure. She had often seen the dogs, foxes, and the children hop and jump after lemmings in this same laughable way. I'm glad to know that, she called to her friend, and hurried back to the fire. As the chips glowed red, Mayax saw another Arctic tern flying the same route as the others. Quickly, she drew its course across the mark on the ground to Fairbanks. Then, peeling off a strip of sinew, she stood in the center of the X and held the ends of the thread in both hands. One arm was pointed to the coast, and the other was pointing in the direction the bird was taking. She cut off the remainder of the strip. There, she said, I have a compass. I can't take the stones with me, but every time a tern flies over, I can line up one arm with him, stretch the sinew out, and my other hand will point to the coast and point borrow. That night she unzipped a small pocket in her pack and took out a battered letter from Amy. And when you get to San Francisco, we will buy you summer dresses, and because you like curls, we'll curl your hair. Then we'll ride the trolley to the theater and sit on velvet seats. Mom says you can have the pink bedroom that looks over the garden and down on the bay and the Golden Gate Bridge. When are you coming to San Francisco? Your pen pal, Amy. The theater, she whispered, and the Golden Gate Bridge. That night she slept with the letter under her cheek. In the evening of the following day, Mayax hastily put on her clothes and crawled up the frost heave. Like a good puppy, she got down on her stomach. Amarok, she called, I'm ready to go when you are. The wind blew across the wolf den, shattering the heads of the cotton grass and shooting their seedlets south with the birds. No one answered. The wolves were gone. That's the end of day 9. Tomorrow we're going to start part 2, Mayax the girl. Okay.